So welcome. We're going to talk about Spaces Protocol. My name is Mike Carson. I'm the founder of Impervious, which created Spaces Protocol. This is my co-founder, Buffer. And this is early adopter Andrew, who's helped us a lot with this. So Spaces Protocol is basically decentralized naming on Bitcoin. So just a little bit of a background to explain why we created the Spaces Protocol. So I founded Park.io in 2014, which is a domain name drop catching service. So through that process, I owned and managed 3 ICANN accredited registrars, domain name registrars, as well as worked with different registries like .com, .ai, .io. Worked with them closely, and I also discovered Bitcoin in 2013, and like many of you, realized how revolutionary it was. And so these two things merged in my mind. It's like I realized the problems in the traditional domain name industry, how it's so centralized, and how the digital assets, there's no reason that they shouldn't be on a blockchain. And so that's part of the reason. Here's some examples of why, they should be decentralized. So one is the .cat registry. A whole registry was raided by the Spanish government. The CTO was arrested because they didn't like some of the content that was hosted. The government didn't like some of the content that was hosted on some .cat domains, and they were taken down. Another thing is the Squarespace hack. I don't know if you guys heard of this, but crypto funds were stolen. Crypto companies were affected by this. It's because crypto companies, with their domain name, they were forced to rely on a third-party registrar for security. So they had no other option. They were forced to rely on Squarespace or another registrar for their security, and that registrar was hacked. And so the company, the DNS records were manipulated, and funds were stolen, customers affected because of this. Another example is certificate authorities. Every time you use HTTPS on the internet, you're interacting through a third-party certificate authority. So it's a third party signs the keys. As a Bitcoiner, it's like, this seems ridiculous. Like, there's other options. Like, there's this alternative called Dane, where you don't need a third-party certificate authority. You can do it directly. Why is a third party involved in encrypting internet traffic? And there's other things like social media usernames. I know some Bitcoiners, their YouTube channels were taken down, like social media accounts, Twitter. It's just taken away. Your username's taken away. You can just take it away. So it's basically the exact same problem as banks. Like what banks did for money, it's like, why do you have to ask permission? Registrars and registries are the same thing. They're even worse. So you have to ask permission, you have to rely on them for security. There's no reason, because they're just digital assets. So this is why, through these years of my work, I've realized that I had this conviction that names need to be decentralized. There's just no reason. It's this thing that's definitely going to happen. It's inevitable because it's so valuable and it's so necessary. And so we worked with, at first when we started our company, we worked with some other solutions to this, like Handshake, which was a separate blockchain, and ENS. We looked at these, but they all have issues. Like a separate blockchain, like with Handshake, issues came about. Like the coin price affected the security of the blockchain. Miners were not getting reward properly, so it wasn't a secure there are other issues with distribution. There's a pre-mine, so it didn't work out. ENS is a whole other thing. It's built on Ethereum. I mean, you know, Ethereum. Well, I mean, I don't know if I have to explain it to you guys, but like, it's you know, try syncing an Ethereum node or doing it without a third party involved. I mean, ENS is, you know, it works okay, but like Bitcoin needs its own. First of all, we decided to build spaces on Bitcoin because Bitcoin is by far the most secure blockchain. You know, it has the biggest ecosystem. But also, Bitcoin needs its own naming solution. You don't want to have to rely on another blockchain for naming. Like, Bitcoin's going to need its own decentralized naming. So that's why we built it on Bitcoin. But at the same time, we wanted to be mindful of Bitcoin. You know, we didn't want to bloat up the block space with stuff. We wanted to leave a very light footprint. We were inspired by Jameson Lopes using Bitcoin as a trust anchor. So we wanted to anchor it into Bitcoin, but leave minimal footprint. And we really value the cypherpunk ideals that Bitcoin was created with. So we didn't want a separate blockchain. We didn't want a pre-mine or a separate token, no foundation where funds go to. So names are auctioned off on the Bitcoin blockchain, and any auction proceeds are burned. It doesn't come to us. So we wanted to do this in a cypherpunk way. Thought that was important. So what is Spaces Protocol? I'll just give a really brief intro to it, and then Andrew and Buffer will get more into it for the workshop. But basically, you know, it's naming an identity anchored in Bitcoin, and it's scaled via zero-knowledge proofs. And so, you know, the first fork of Bitcoin was Namecoin. So Satoshi talked about naming. So, you know, just to show you that how important this is, like, this is something that's been thought about since the very beginning. But, you know, at the time, you couldn't do it on Bitcoin. But now, it's possible. It's possible to do it on Bitcoin. You can scale to billions of names on Bitcoin, all anchored in Bitcoin. So, in the way that we do that is use some of the traditional domain system where there's top level like .com, .net, .ai, and then there's second level under that like Google.com or whatever, Bitcoin.org, so Bitcoin is the second level. So we did it this way where the top level is directly on Bitcoin, and they're rolled out with auctions. And we limited it, so there's only 10 auctions, only 10 names can be rolled out per day. And we did that for distribution reasons, but also to really promote the scaling to the second level, which is off-chain, using zero-knowledge proofs. So, yeah, subspaces like, for example, Alice at Bitcoin, or Mike at Bitcoin right here, those are scaled off-chain with zero-knowledge proof. And again, we did this trying to have minimal on-chain footprint and also make it scalable.